doesn't necessarily translate to a national story, but it's going to be important in terms of understanding how this goes down tonight between Sanders and Clinton.
This is Jupiter, Florida. These are live pictures. You may see the hair, the instantly recognizable hair from the center of that shot. There is actually a red carpet at this event for VIP guests of the Trumps to stop and be photographed by the press corps, not unlike a screening or a premiere or one of them high-class parties where guests come in and have their photo taken against a Trump background. Katie Tur is somewhere in that scrum of still and moving photographers, and here is what's in the adjoining room. Note on the far left of the podium shot, you can just see the bottles of Trump water.
We expect
and
this is amazing.
Many of the consumer products called out by Mitt Romney are going to be on display. There's more of it to the right. But it is part of what you deal with when you are GOP challengers of the leading candidate who is a reality star, who is a brand name, and who enjoys 100% name recognition in this country. We've never seen any aspect of this race before. We are now within 30 seconds of those 4 stalwart counties in the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, the non-oven mitt-shaped part of Michigan, where the polls will close, and that allows us, even though we have raw vote in, to characterize the race. So now it's 59-50 in these last 10 seconds. We will show you. The polls are closing now. We'll show you where Michigan fits in all of it. And yet politically, here's where it fits at 9 Eastern time. Donald Trump has swept the first 2 states. Our projection from MSNBC and NBC News is that when all the votes are counted, your winner tonight in the Michigan primary will be Donald Trump. On the Democratic side, our race is too early to call. 30% of the raw in. Bernie Sanders leading 51% to Hillary Clinton's 48. These are the results from earlier, so you have a sweep so far on the GOP side for Trump. Hillary Clinton, the projected winner, heavily in Mississippi tonight. And there is more specific wording on this GOP race. In addition to our projection that Donald Trump will win, we are saying, we are saying Cruz and Kasich are vying for second. Rubio trails far behind. Rubio trails far behind. We'll let you know when that status changes.
And again, that's very specific wording chosen not by us to describe results. This is from the elections unit, and they don't go out of their way to make elaborations like this unless it's very clear to them that they can. And so once again, what we're looking at here from Michigan, for Marco Rubio to be described as far behind as Kasich and Cruz vie for second, that far behind characterization from Marco Rubio is yet more bad news for him. We don't know exactly where the standings are going to come in down ticket tonight. We do know that Donald Trump has won both of these states so far. We spoke with Marco Rubio's communications director live on the air earlier in this broadcast, and he suggested that Hawaii might be a place that Marco Rubio could win tonight. We still have Idaho and Hawaii ahead, but just in delegate counts, in terms of when people go to bed in most of the country, and in terms of the distance between the expectations for Marco Rubio and how he has been able to perform in major states, he really looks quite dead in the water. His campaign wants you to think that Florida is the only thing that matters. Ultimately, when you're saying that only your home state matters, that's not a position of strength from which to be making your argument.
On the other hand, Chris Matthews in Detroit, Michigan, there is the larger story, and that is these 2 states, tonight's key states, have been awarded to one Donald J. Trump and the Republican Party.
Yeah, I think it's looking very good for him next week when we have the big winner-take-all votes in Florida and in Ohio. It looks good for Kasich to do well, too. If he has a strong second, it looks like. So we're probably looking at a Trump-Kasich fight in Ohio next week. Could be very close. And I think Trump will have the leg up on Rubio, because if Rubio shows this weakness this week, it's very hard for a Floridian to say, I really think our guy is in competition. I also think that Trump is pretty good for the vulnerable spot. He knows the person's Achilles heel. And I think Rubio's is that he hasn't been showing up for his job as a senator. All Trump has to do is say, you gave him one job, he was a no-show. You're going to give him a bigger one? So I would expect it's going to be a fight in Ohio, as I said, between Kasich, who's doing very well tonight in the neighboring state of Ohio, his state, and a close one down in Florida that could turn out to be a bigger walk than we've been watching already. And it looks to me like Trump at the end will get maybe not the delegates to win this nomination, but he may have a partner in Kasich, and maybe he'll offer the vice presidency. I don't know. That might be enough to make up the deficit. That's what I keep seeing.
We're expecting Donald Trump in that ballroom surrounded by American flags and Trump water. This was billed as a 9 p.m. appearance for a news conference format. An aide is announcing something to the assembled crowd. We'll see when he comes out. In the kind of game of chicken that is media availabilities and airtime on election nights, it looks like he will go first. Hillary Clinton's campaign may, in fact, be waiting for a call, a characterization in Michigan.
And, you know, the Trump campaign could not have known in advance, particularly because they don't have an internal pollster. They could not have known in advance that at 9 o'clock they would not only have a call in Mississippi for Donald Trump, but they would also have a call in Michigan for Donald Trump. They scheduled this for a specific time to start at 9 or shortly thereafter anyway. Him being able to give this press conference, again, it's a little weird to give a press conference instead of a speech, but there you have it. Him being able to do this event, knowing that he's got the 2 major states tonight already tucked away, is a media coup for him. Again, Steve Kornacki, while we're waiting for him, does have a little detail in terms of how Trump may have been able to put this together in Michigan.
Yeah, let's take a look at the Donald Trump coalition here. So again, this breakdown, very conservative voters. You're talking about 30% of the Republican electorate here. Ted Cruz did win them, an 8-point victory for Cruz over Donald Trump here. Then you go to the biggest single group, though, ideologically somewhat conservative. This is how they define themselves. This is half the electorate. You see Trump wins them. The other thing is you see Cruz falls off significantly, and then you go to moderates. Again, this is a fairly significant chunk as well. And again, Trump winning them nearly 40%. Kasich now rising up, nearly beating him with moderates. Cruz falling all the way back. So what you're seeing here is Trump is pretty strong in all 3 of those groups. Kasich obviously rising up the more moderate it gets. Cruz falling the more moderate it gets. So what you end up with there is Kasich and Cruz look almost factional, while Trump is kind of winning this thing across the board. You can also look at this. College grads, we said there's this college, non-college divide. Trump coming close to Kasich among college grads, but then you go down to high school or less, dominant for Donald Trump, and Kasich gets close to disappearing on that one. And then also this white evangelical group we're always talking about, and again, here in Michigan, tonight about half the electorate on the Republican side, white evangelical Christian, and Donald Trump winning with white evangelical Christians over Ted Cruz by 2 points.
Wow. The Cruz campaign obviously is counting on evangelical voters everywhere. They are not winning them against Donald Trump almost anywhere. It strikes me, though, that one of the important consequences of this Michigan result, now that we've got a declared winner in Donald Trump, is that this might have been the only place where John Kasich might have been able to pull out a win, other than his home state of Ohio, where he's hoping to win a week from tonight. Is this actually bad news for Kasich, even if he does come in second tonight?
I think it's a strong enough second, but really he needed to be very, very close. He really needed to be within 5 points for people to really say, oh, he gave Trump a strong run for his money after having not won a state. I think that going forward, he's almost in somewhat of the not in as bad of a position, though that's a little bit unfair of me considering that Rubio has won some states, but he and Rubio can't just be winning their own states and be contenders for the nomination.
Unless they are. Unless this year all you need is delegates to get onto the floor in Cleveland, and they're going to fight it out based on who's just alive at that time, right?
I think next week, though, is going to be so important with all those winner-take-all states. If Trump could lock up the nomination.
Absolutely.
And it will be...
He basically could. I mean, you know, this is an important night for him because Michigan, you know, it's not a southern state. It's close to that swath of the country where Cruz has been doing well. It's not contiguous, but it's close. And so Trump shows that he can go to a Rust Belt state and win.
And what's Cruz's strategy from this point onwards when he has supposedly, you know, we've been through the evangelical states. He hasn't been winning the evangelical voters. Going forward, it's a much less
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's a rockier road for him.
If Marco Rubio is essentially being wiped out tonight and no longer being seen as a contender anywhere other than in his home state, and that's something that we should talk about itself, because tonight may call into question whether or not sticking in through Florida actually makes sense for him.
Right.
But if it is Ted Cruz and maybe John Kasich, which of them really can legitimately, honestly compete against Donald Trump in Illinois, in Ohio, in New York, in California, in New Jersey, in the kind of big population blue states that make up the back half of the Republican primary? The whole South is almost done. The evangelical states are almost done. Is Ted Cruz really going to win New Jersey?
Well, I do think it's more favorable to Kasich, but how long can he stick in?
Exactly. Does Kasich have the resources and the infrastructure to stay in and be competitive in all those states against Trump, who also, I mean, he's got resources. He doesn't have a lot of infrastructure, but he's got that Trump thing that seems to be working.
Yet another case of the establishment trying to crown another front runner when it's just really not happening, and voters have rejected
Michigan, you know, this is Jerry Ford's state. It's amazing to me. It's just amazing.
Congressman from Grand Rapids, the pride of Michigan.
Exactly.
All right, let's go to Katie Tur, who is down at the Trump event. Katie, what's going on behind you? Is the candidate in the room?
The candidate's not in the room at the moment, but Donald Trump did do something of a victory lap of sorts just a few moments ago. He came in through the double doors behind my camera and immediately got mobbed with supporters and members of the press who asked him what it felt like. He said it's a great honor to win Mississippi. He did not know about the Michigan results at the time. They also asked him about Marco Rubio, saying that the winner of Florida would ultimately be the nominee. He said we're going to have to wait and see, but that he does expect to win Florida. After all, this is a state that he spends half of his time and lives in half the time. He has Mar-a-Lago, which is just about 30 minutes away from where we're standing at the moment. This is Trump's advance, the head of his advance who is speaking right now. We're told that Donald Trump will be entering this room, presumably to declare victory in Michigan and Mississippi. He has done, according to the exit polls, done well with older voters, done well with somewhat conservative voters, done very well with less educated voters. It's interesting to note that in Michigan right now, the polling is showing him in a tie with Ted Cruz among female voters. But so far, those results match up pretty much to the state results that we've seen so far in the states that he has won. But the big headline tonight, guys, is that these establishment attacks are not working against Donald Trump. The establishment, Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, et cetera, did see something of a crack in Donald Trump's facade of late, and they thought that they would be able to go after him hard with a big amount of money being poured into negative ads. So far, that has not worked in Mississippi. That did not work in Michigan. And those are two indicators that he will continue to have his momentum going forward and continue to potentially have success on the second Super Tuesday, which is next Tuesday. That, of course, is when Florida, where we are right now, and Ohio votes, two winner-take-all states. If he takes those states, he has an easier path to reach that magic number of 1237. If he does not take those states, it's more and more likely that we will see this fight go all the way to the floor of the convention.
Yeah, no matter what monkeying around people are hoping or planning to do in Cleveland, it is going to get harder and harder to argue with math. Let's keep the Trump location up on our screen, and let's bring in, you want a contrast? Let's bring in Gabe Gutierrez from the traveling Rubio campaign. Gabe, the point Rachel just made, I think we're going to hear all night, and that is you may point to Florida, Florida, Florida if you're Marco Rubio. Your viability is going to be questioned every hour, every day coming out of tonight's results, even so far.
Yeah, Brian, that's exactly right. If you can see behind me, this is where Rubio rally just wrapped up outside Sarasota.